Unlike the culture around you always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in you. This idea of being a living sacrifice is something that we explored with the students the first day, and we were going to see it in action. Sunday morning, we got all the bikes completely ready to ride the next day, and then we put them back in the stack. We didn't ride Sunday. Dan led us to a beautiful mile-long hike through the woods back to a dune drop, and I mean drop. Most of the kids ran right down to the bottom. It was a long way. Most of the adults watched and made sure everyone was safe from the top. Yes, you look great down there. And so they ran down, and they played in the water, at the edge of the water there for a couple of minutes, and then they made their way back up. And everyone got back up to the top except one. There was one student who was really struggling. And it wasn't just a couple of minutes, and I watched living sacrifices. I watched, Luke, how many you counted? 19 kids ran back down to push, pull. I think Connor was on behind him just kind of pushing on his butt, and we had 2 kids on the front pulling him, and 2 rode right beside him, and he just put his arms on them, and they climbed up with him. And it was an incredible moment of what we were about to see all week long, this living sacrifice. And that set a tone for what we saw each day with this group of kids. At this time, I'm going to bring up the first group. So I'd like to see Claire, Isaac, Ashlyn, Aubrey, Anna, Case, Aurora. Come on up. Lala, Jen, Tate, and Adam. Come on up, and they're going to share with you their name and then a small part of their experience of the trip, whether that might be their favorite part or a good story or the fact that the food was amazing.
Hi, my name is Claire. I would say my favorite part of bike trip was probably singing and playing guitar at campfire time. And one moment where I saw God was when me and Miss Lindsay went to go watch the sunset for a couple minutes on Thursday night. It was just so cool to see everything that he created, and it was just a little reminder that he's got this.
My name is Isaac Cantola. This is my 3rd year as a junior leader on the trip, and I really enjoyed that. I think my favorite part of the trip was actually seeing the dynamic between all the leaders. Each one brings something different. Dan says this at the beginning of the week, and it's fun to see how that plays out, not only in leader meetings, but just with all of the kids. And yeah, it was a good way to end this off.
Hi, I'm Ashlyn, and this is my 2nd year going on bike trip. And I think my favorite part of the bike trip was going on the sand dune rides and going up all of the hills and flying in the air.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Moy. My favorite part of bike trip was probably getting to the sag vans because those were pretty nice. Or lunch. Lunch was pretty good too.
Truth.
Hi, I'm Lala, and my favorite part was definitely the ice cream stops. I'm Aurora, and my favorite part was going to Whippy Dip and getting a Frisbee of ice cream.
Hello, my name is Annalise. I was on this trip as a leader. I have to clarify because I was mistaken as a student at least 5 times, but it's okay. My favorite part of the trip was really just building relationships with the students. I do Awana with the younger kids during the winter, so it was fun to get to know them and spend time learning about God just on our stops during biking or in our tent time at night. So yeah, that was cool for me.
My name is Jen Marsman. This is my 27th year, and there was a lot of changes this year. That they were good. Some of them were good. The weather was beautiful. Tuna fish sandwiches still taste good, and God is still good.
Amen.
My name is Tate Montgomery. My favorite part was probably Mr. K's Sasquatch story.
Hi, my name is Case Shulo, and my favorite part about this is biking and food and other stuff.
He did. Hi, my name's Adam Montgomery. I think this is like my 6th, 7th year as a leader. This year was kind of neat watching these kids' attitudes. We had a couple days where it was hot. I was in a group that got lost for some odd reason. It was well, maybe a couple days, Dan. But no, we had a day that was super hot. We were running low on water. We were lost. Again, I don't know whose fault that was, but that's the group I was in. You know, these kids just said, okay, we're lost, or we took a detour. I called it a detour. They're like, okay, we took a detour. We got to get back to camp. Let's just go and get it done. There was no complaining, nothing like that. They were just ready to go. So their attitudes this year were awesome. So thank you.
Give them a hand, please. Adam makes the life of, you guys can sit down, thank you. Adam makes the life of a SAG driver difficult because we always got to find out where he took his group. Yeah, Adam kind of had I think a couple of days. You had an entirely different trip than the rest of us. So that's always, yeah, three days. Yeah. Monday morning, we got up. Tore down camp, like I said, in record time for a Monday. That's the first time these kids are taking down tents and figuring everything out. We've got a pretty structured, organized, quick, let's get at it Monday, where you really quick get up, get dressed for biking, and then you start ripping your tent down, and then you get your luggage and your tent over to the trailer. And Peggy came and asked me, what time should we do breakfast? I'm like, well, it's Monday. It's the first time they're going to do this. Probably we'll wake them up at 7, probably 8:20, 7:35. They had everything in the trailer. And I'm like, Peggy, breakfast is early today. Let's go. So they did a great job. 66 bikes and 6 support vehicles rolled from Manistee bound for Ludington. The theme for that day was transform and roll out. The rollout being how we live our transformed life. We would end up talking that night about the transformed life and how to work as one body. Romans 12:3-8 talks about fighting pride and working together as one body, the body of Christ. And we talked about that. I've got one story I want to share with you. The kids heard this last week, but in the summer of 1986, 2 ships collided in the Black Sea off the coast of Russia. Hundreds of passengers died as they were hurled into the icy waters below. News of the disaster was further darkened when an investigation revealed the cause of this accident. It was not a technology problem. The radar was working fine. There wasn't even thick fog. The cause was discovered to be human stubbornness. Human stubbornness. Each captain was aware of the other ship's presence nearby, but neither one of them wanted to change course. One of them was so stubborn that he said, keep on the same course, and then he went to bed. That's how prideful he was. Not a really good way to work together. Within 7 minutes, the smaller ship sunk and over 400 people died because of 2 guys being stubborn. People, pride is deadly. History is full of examples. Fight pride if you want to work with others as the body of Christ. And I'm going to tell you that these guys did a great job working together. I did not see a lot of that this week. They did super good. We arrived at Ponchos Pond campground Monday night, set up camp, and then let the kids swim in the pool for quite a bit. Those sunburns needed to be cooled off in that nice, cool water. We've got our second group coming up. Taryn, Brian, Peggy, Josiah, Cooper, Jacob, Christian, Abigail Green, Abby, Kalunga, and Libby. Come on up. We're all the way across here. We'll let Josiah start us out.
My name is Josiah Cantola, and this was my first year as a junior leader, and it was just very eye-opening and a lot of fun. These kids are really great, and from the last time I went on the trip, the tents were taken down a lot faster. And I'd say my favorite part was probably getting detoured with Adam's group.
Hi, I'm Taryn Marsman, and my favorite part was probably finally getting to lunch every day because I was starving.
Hi, my name is Abigail Green, and this was my first year, and I just had a ton of fun. I'm so ready to go next year. My favorite part was probably bonding with a bunch of new kids that I didn't know, so I made a lot of new friends.
I need you to know that Abigail's one of the kids that said bike trips should be 2 weeks long. All the leaders said no.
Hi, I'm Abby Kalunga, and this is also my first year of bike trip. And I would say my favorite part this last week was probably the ice cream stops, the pools, the dune rides, and also the detour we took that one day, and we skipped the big hill. That was awesome.
Hi, my name is Molly Spoolman. I think my favorite part of bike trip this year was definitely campfire time and singing and playing the guitar with Claire and Neil. That was really fun. Or the daily fist bumps with Brian. Or lunch. That's cool too.
Hi, my name is Jacob Borgman, and my favorite part was probably Country Dairy and the limited chocolate milk.
My name is Cooper, and my favorite part was going over the handlebars and breaking my arm.
I have to say, hang on, Christian. Mom dropped him off and said the deductible's all paid, so whatever you need to do is fine. You don't give God that much to work with.
Hi, my name is Christian Chulo, and my favorite part was just climbing the sand dunes and rolling back down them.
Hi, my name is Libby Manzer, and I really enjoyed the bike trip, but my favorite part was probably getting to meet new people.
Hi, I'm Peggy, and we go every year. This is Dan and mine's 34th year, and I like that I was up here during this time because it was about Romans 12, about being the body of Christ, and I know each one of us has gifts that God has given us, and we've seen that not only on the bike trip with the kids, with the leaders, but each one of you sitting here, parents in congregation, you all have an important part in this trip. We just happen to be the ones lucky enough to be on it each year. So thank you for doing that. And the thing is each one of you are the heart of the bike trip, and thank you for that.
My name is Brian Buscard. I just wanted to thank the parents for loaning us your kids. I had 3 sons, and often people would come up and they'd go, "Oh, your kids were so great." And I'd just about fall over. I go, "My kids?" So for those parents in the audience, I just want to say that we have a lot of leaders here in Ravenna, and a lot of them were on the bike trip. We have a lot of people a lot of kids that are willing to serve. Like Mark said, this is the fastest we've ever had the takedown go, because a lot of kids, even the 6th graders who are usually the shortest, were willing to put up the tents, take down the tents. When we got back from the end of the day, the first thing you do is unload the trailer and then put up your tent. And I had the 6th graders, and Mac was out there whacking away with the hammer. Levi, they had a fight who would get the hammer. But Levi and Mac are like 2 of the shortest guys. Of course, they grabbed Calvin Shulo to help them. So I want to specifically call out some kids. Molly, when she didn't have to play guitar and she sang, that was wonderful for me because I struggle with the singing. So I want to call out Molly for her courage to sing in front of a group, which is really hard to do. I honestly didn't recognize Jacob today because he didn't have his sunglasses on. But I had Jacob for at least 3 days, right, Jacob? 2? Seemed like 3. And I tell you, Jacob is ready to be a junior leader already. He did a great job leading. I often gave him, I did every day, gave him the map and the directions. Him and Caden would assist the younger guys. Caden even came out to me and said, "Let me take this guy that's struggling and put him in front, and I will teach him how to shift." I have never had a student, I often can't even get leaders to do that, but Caden stepped up and volunteered to do it, and it was just wonderful to see that. Calvin was wonderful too. He was a great encourager. So sometimes if you get Caden and Calvin behind you and you can't tell which one is talking, because they kind of sound similar, I don't know why that is, but whoever are Caden and Calvin's parents, I feel for you because them boys can eat. They ate me under the table. So I just want to thank you for loaning us your children. It was a huge blessing. Me personally, I made a lot of friends, and that's a big part of the bike trip for me. Unlike the kids, I love biking. So God gives me this opportunity to do something that I love and get on the bike and share it with the kids. And almost every boy here, I have balance issues, almost every boy here helped me get up, helped me make it down the the ramp, helped me get out of the water. Caden and Kelvin, Jacob had to kind of like pull me out of the water because I almost fell over a couple times. So your kids were great, and I want to thank you for that.
We left Ludington Tuesday, headed for Dunes Harbor Campground in Mears. Our focus that day was Romans 12, 9-13. And we talked specifically about what it means to be devoted to one another. They were already doing it, some of them, but it was awesome to see the kids living this out by being so encouraging to each other on the ride. You guys have already heard the leaders talk about that. It was very alive this year. Even though it was not the most miles, being a 29-mile day, that second day, butts are pretty sore, sunburns are stinging. It can be a tough one. And they arrived, set up camp pretty quickly, and then went and jumped in the pool there at Dunes Harbor. So we were very thankful for that. Wednesday was a loop day out of Dunes Harbor right back there. And a lot of the leaders that morning when we handed out maps. Adam, did you know there were maps? I just thought I'd check. When we handed out maps, a couple of the leaders are like, so if I don't want to do that, I can just make a right turn and go over there and hang out with my kids for a while. But they did a loop, and they got to see a lot of cool stuff that day. We ended with Macwood's dune buggy rides, which was a lot of fun. And again, that night, the pool was very soothing. Thursday's spiritual emphasis was verses 14-16, and both Isaac Cantola and Connor Marsman agreed to share just a little short examples of some things in their own lives that live out verse 14, which says, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. This is not a culture where we do that. I'm sorry to say, but America is not a culture we do that. Turn on your television, you'll see it. But we got to talk about how to bless those that persecute you, and it was good. We went to bed Wednesday night ready for our longest day of biking yet, which we'll talk about in a minute. But first I named Eli, Snoink, Ian, Christy, Seth, Savannah, Lindsay, Caden, Calvin, Braden, Molly, Craig, Jay, and Brennan. Come on up. Oh, I'm sorry, Molly.
Hi, my name is Savannah, and this past week I learned that God likes to remind us about all the different things and important things we should know as Christians. And my favorite part was the Macwood Dune rides.
Hi, I'm Ian Patterson, and a couple of my favorite parts was Aunt Peggy's food, swimming in Lake Michigan, and just the whole biking part of it.
Hi, I'm Kelvin Borgman. My favorite part was when we went up the lighthouse. I thought that was cool.
Hi, I'm Jay Porter, and one of my favorite things was probably Miss Peggy's cooking or seeing old friends.
My name is Brennan Manzer, and my favorite thing was hanging out with friends.
Hi, my name is Craig Cutchin. My favorite thing was hanging out with my friends.
Hi, my name is Kaden Borgman, and my favorite part was downhills, but I learned the uphills are usually bigger.
Hi, my name is Eli Snoink, and my favorite part was probably hanging out with all my friends.
Hi, my name is Seth Cantola, and my favorite part was eating ice cream.
Hi, I'm Brandon Marsman. This was my first year on bike trip. My favorite part was getting lost in Dan's group.
My name is Christy May. One of the coolest things that I think about the trip is all the positivity from the kids. And we'll have people who will stop us and say, hey, what are you doing? What's going on with this big group? And we'll get to explain it to them. And they're always like, oh my gosh. And then it sits in with me. They're right. This is really hard. And I might have a few minutes of whining to Mark. I mean, creatively coming up with ideas how I can get out of biking. Absolutely. And then I look at the kids and I listen to the conversations and I get to do group time with them and I get to just pour into their lives and they get to pour into my life. And then I realize, you know what, this is pretty awesome and fun and it's so worth it. And I just love hanging out with these kids, which is cool for me because I'm an elementary teacher, so I get to know them when they're little, and then they leave me for a few years, and then I get to see them again now, and it's really great to see how they've grown and matured.
Christy has become a master at reading the map because she is not riding one extra mile. No. Not.
Yes. Yes. No. Hi, I'm Lindsay. I just want to thank all of you for your support. Whether you donated, whether you prayed, whether you sent kids, we are grateful. I have had the privilege of hanging out with several of these 8th grade girls since they were 1st grade girls in Awanas, and it's just super cool to see them grow and see them become leaders now for their peers, see them talking to each other about what God has done in their lives, seeing them lead worship for each other, for their peers. Just a super cool way that God shows himself to us. So I'm so grateful for this past week. Thank you, guys.
All right, Thursday was an almost 40-mile ride. Christy let us know that it was 39.8, and she was not doing the extra 0.2 to Pioneer Park. One fun part of that ride is finding the bottomless cup of chocolate milk at Country Dairy. If you've not been, you need to go. And then trying not to puke when you get back on the bike because, that's a lot of chocolate milk. And that night we wrapped up the last few verses of Romans 12 and talked about the culture of revenge and getting even that we live in. Let's look at verse 17 to 19. It says, "Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends." We are again reminded to look different, to live different. We looked very different in that campground from everyone else, and Christy alluded to that people stopped by and what are you doing? Wow, that's crazy. That's so cool. But we did live an example of living differently. This led to talking about the salvation plan that night. And no one accepted Christ that night, but God was working. God was working in one. We got up Friday morning and began our last ride home to Ravenna. Some kids came up and said that bike trip should be 2 weeks long. I already mentioned that. All of us leaders decided that they had been out in the sun too long and they weren't thinking straight, and we took care of that. But God still had one thing he wanted to do. So literally at Mabrito's Motors, where we set up lunch that day, there was a group doing devotions, and at the end of it, I got to lead someone to Christ. So we are one more for the kingdom of God. We're pretty excited about that. Let's get our last group up here. Luke, Neil, Kelly, Aiden, Eli, Rhonda, Scott, Anna, Connor, Gabby, McLean, Kendall, Abby, Dan. If I didn't call you and you're on the trip, come on up. Who wants to go first, Kendall? All right. Go for it.
Okay. My name is Kendall Luce, and my favorite part of bike trip was probably playing camps with Gabby, Abby, and Aubrey, and nobody finding out our signal.
Hi, my name is Abby. I learned a lot on bike trip, but some of the things that I learned is shifting is really important when you're riding. And bike chain is really hard to get off your legs.
My name is Gabby. This is my first year. My favorite part was the dune rides and probably singing Frozen, Moana, and all that stuff, trying to get up those big hills.
My name is Neil. This is my 3rd year. My favorite part was definitely Country Dairy.
My name is McLean Adams. My favorite part was probably going up to the lighthouse with Mr. K and spending more time with him.
Hi, my name is Levi Cass, and my favorite part was Mac Dune rides.
I'm Ann Skius, and my favorite part was seeing the C-17. I mean, it is amazing seeing a big chunk of metal in the sky.
And it's a little bit into airplanes, so.
Hi, I'm Connor. This is my 10th year I was on the trip. There was so many memories that was made just from being part of a lesson to watching all the groups get to the top of a giant hill and just waiting and cheering for the next person to come up the hill. And to the sand dunes, helping one of the students get up all together as a team was really cool to see. My favorite part was probably Cooper. Where are you at? Yeah, Cooper. He broke his arm, and we saw him after the fact from the hospital, and he was just smiling, laughing, joking. And the next couple of days after, he was still having fun, trying to set up, which I was like, nope, you go sit down. But it was just awesome to see Cooper just have a bright smile that lit up everyone's day.
Hi, my name's Anna. This was my first year on Bike Trip as a leader. I loved watching the kids build relationships and friendships and grow in the Lord. I'd say my favorite part was definitely the downhills and all the lunch stops.
Hi, my name is Eli Cooley, and my favorite part is probably laughing and helping other people.
Hi, my name is Luke Douglas, and my favorite part of the trip was Friday when Clark and Jen were brave enough to put me and Isaac and Josiah as the leaders in a group. They trusted us with a whole group of boys. And on Friday, we got to leave early and take our group of boys, and they said, ride as fast as you can and get back to the church to start setup for cleanup. And so, where's my group? Yeah, Christian, you were not in my group. Put your hand down. And we, as we rode that day, it was fun to watch teamwork in action as we flew down the trail, riding double file, breaking the wind for each other. And then when we got here, there was no complaining, there was no pouting or chillaxing in the grass. Everyone got to work, and that probably was because we were going to go swimming after that, but that's not the point. So, good job, boys. You worked hard.
First of all, I don't see a couple people up here that should be up here, and that would be our bike mechanic, Bill Maddox, who works very hard all week long, and his wife, Vicki, who did lunch wagon with me all week long. And they should be up there. Kudos to them. Give them a hand because just a minute. Where? Who? And dishes. Yes, Vicki kept up on dishes. This year's dynamic was a little different, purely on Peggy's part. For one, she had customized our kitchen with Instapots. Phenomenal. She customized our kitchen with some menus. Phenomenal. Our dynamics was different because Scott came on the trip this year as as another vehicle. This squirt came with Grandpa. I'm not gonna. And so the dynamics were different, but I have to say, God was still the same and steadfast. And there were nights around the fire that just had me in tears. Kids' commitments, their words, and the story of the kids helping the one kid up the dunes, which we don't get to see that. We don't get to see a lot of that because we go to our lunch spot and set up. Phenomenal, phenomenal week. God sightings everywhere.
Hi, my name is Addison. My favorite part was making new friends.
Let me just clarify that she was with us purely because brother, grandpa, grandma were on the trip, and mom and dad needed a break. So we took her along.
Hello, I'm Kelly Merrill. This is my second year going on the trip, and I sat at camp our second to last night. I wrote down my notes. There's a lot of them. Second to last night, and I just sat there watching all of these kids, and a couple things from our discussions and our campfires really stood out to me. And these are from Romans 12, but in the Message version. I don't read the Message version enough, is what I concluded at the end of this trip. But the two things that stood out to me was one that said, love from the center of who you are. And the second one was, I think Isaac highlighted this the night he spoke. He said, it says, make friends with nobodies and don't be the great somebody. And those two things hit me really hard as I watched and thought back through the week and then watched the next couple of days unfold. just the idea of living in harmony. And I saw on the wrists and ankles of all these kids those the old WWJD bracelet, and then there's another one now that is an HWLF, which stands for He Would Love First. And on these trips, I've been on lots of trips and mission trips now in my lifetime, but it's super, super easy, I think, on these trips to live in this way that Jesus calls us to, and to take these things that we learn. In the week, we're immersed in everything, right? These things happen so naturally on trips. We're focused, we're surrounded, we're immersed in all of this learning, and everyone's working at the same pace. I could probably tell you a story of almost every single kid on this trip that you saw being Jesus to somebody around them. So many cool stories, and you've heard some of them. But I thought of this that night sitting at the campfire watching all these kids, and it's kind of, I thought, all right, this is going to be my challenge to all of you students, leaders, but then also us as a congregation. My thought and challenge is, now what? Right? The week is over, even though some of you wanted it to be this week too. But the week is over. So what does that mean? What if we continued living in that way that you all did this last week? What if you looked now for ways to be Jesus? What if you woke up in the morning and in your glasses or in the very first thing when you see on your wall, you saw those letters, HWLF, right? Before responding to your brother or sister with the glare or the comment because they just made you mad for something. What if you surrounded? What if you made it a point to surround yourself with friends at school, at church? What if you looked for those mentors and leaders that could speak truth into you constantly, like you were doing this week, like you had this week? I heard so many times I could not get the Lighthouse song out of my head this week, and it was a fan favorite, I think, for most of you. I think all the boys should finish service with singing that, by the way. But there's one line in there that says, it says, "Your great love will lead me through." And so my challenge to all of us as a congregation, as leaders on the bike trip, and as students, especially as you keep growing, to keep being that light for Jesus as you did each day of this trip. Wake up, make a conscious effort. It has to be a conscious effort to show and point others to the love that will carry them through. So that was my thought as I sat there at that campfire.
My name's Scott Hopkins. I have not gone on the trip for quite a few years. Went this year as kind of a different role. I took our trailer, AKA the Hopkins Hilton, they called it. We had a lot of people that on the hot days that were saying, can we be in? Can we be in? We want the air conditioning. But what I was doing was I took Addie with me, but we were the first ones to the campgrounds. We would get the area set up, kind of scope it out, where they were going to put the bikes, where they were going to put the kitchen and those things. And then also the last one to leave, making sure everything was squared up, everybody was on their way, and everybody was set. So I also had the opportunity to warn some of the people as we pulled in. When you see all these kids coming in with bikes and all these tents start being set up, don't get too alarmed. They're a good group of kids, and also had the opportunity after I was leaving for a lot of people coming up to me and saying, wow, what an amazing, amazing trip. Just a lot of amazing kids, a lot of amazing leaders that make this work. So it was just a lot of fun, just a fun time to just watch all the kids again. And also I had an opportunity, I went on this trip with both my son and daughter as a leader, and this year my grandson was on the trip. So kind of a full circle.
This year we had a couple little changes. One of the biggest changes I think that probably added the dynamic for the kitchen was that there was actually 5 ladies in the kitchen. And Tina Winzinger, Amy Sitzer, Vicki Maddox, Peggy, and Rhonda Hopkins. And they each could take a little shift so that they didn't feel like they were totally busy from sunrise to sunset and not spending time with the kids and seeing what's going on. Phenomenal. Yeah, great change. But what it did is that this is my second year being in a SAG, and so on Tuesday, was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday, Peggy went with me to do a performance review and see how I'm doing, you know, and whether I'm going to get fired or not. And
we're still in talks over that.
Yeah. So we were out riding, and this goes back to this whole thing of how thankful we are for the different leaders. As I sat here today listening to Lindsay and Kelly, I see young mothers with young kids, and I'm excited for the future of the trip. And their husbands made great sacrifices to be home with the kids while they were gone, and that just, I'm gonna cry. But anyway, I'm excited about that. This year, more than any year, I was just thanking the Lord for the things that I was seeing in the future of that trip. 34 years, but it's got a bright future, I think, and it can make an impact for Christ for a long time to come. But anyway, we've had a lot of really cool leaders over the years that have gone. We've had a lot of people. You get into a campground, and like we're in Poncho's Pond. How many of you have ever camped in Poncho's Pond? It's a little bit of hoity-toity, and we don't belong there. Not with our tents. But old Pete there, Poncho Pete, he grew to like us many years ago, and so we kind of got a place in their heart. Well, you get to that park, and all of a sudden everybody's coming up with their cameras. And they're walking around, they're videoing. And then you see this one lady who I can't tell if she's grumpy or not. So finally I decided I had to walk over and ask, And so I walked over and, oh, my daughter's on a trip just like this. She's out in California with 62 students and I think she said 22 leaders. Well, we were 51 students and 23 leaders. But then she says to me, but they're nowhere near as organized as you guys are. And man, they don't have tents that match. And she's going on, And then she says, let me get this straight. This is the part that just killed me. I just slayed me, She says, the kids ride their bike from where they started at to here? Well, yeah, that's when we're on a bike trip, And you mean you don't bust them? Well, what would the point of that be, But anyway, you encountered that a lot of times. And one of the things that they usually asked was, who is crazy enough to cook for all these people? And so that gets back to the 5 ladies there, because without that food, man, these kids don't move, So on Tuesday, when I was doing I'm going to go down memory lane if you'll just permit me for 1 minute. When we were tooling along on Tuesday from Ludington to Pentwater, I don't know how many of you have been on Oceana Drive, but that last stretch there is just curvy, windy, trees, beautiful lake, 10-mile-an-hour speed limit, And so I'm just going along putzing behind this one group, kind of blocking, just following them. And all of a sudden I look in the mirror and I see this Jeep right up on my hind end, and a car behind it. And I'm like, oh, crap, I better pull over. So I pull over and get out of the way, and I'm parallel to the road. I'm blocking this other road, and the Jeep pulls right in alongside of me and about that far from our side door. And I'm like, oh, who did I make mad? I'm about to get a lashing, And she pulls up and gets right alongside our window, and it was Christy Farrow. And I was just flabbergasted, to see her out there. Peggy and I were. And Ron and Christy cooked.
Christy was a cook.
Oh, yeah.
Many years
Ron and
ago
Christy cooked many, many years ago. And we got to thinking about it. I think Ron passed away probably 25 years ago. And so anyway, we texted back and forth on we got a little text thread going. Ryan Skews, what year did you go? Okay. Okay, one of them years in there. And it would have been this trip because we started at Interlaken. And Ron and Christy were cooking. They were driving. Bill had this old Ford F-350 cab and a half pickup truck with a pickup topper on it. So in our text thread, I said we'd seen Christy, and Bill texted back and said, one of the funnest memories I have is of this raccoon trying to get into that camper through the top roof of the vent when we were in Interlaken. Well, there's a backstory to that I wasn't allowed to tell Andon this week because I'm worried that I might scare him off or something like that or embarrass him in front of everybody else, so I wasn't allowed to tell the story. But when Ryan went, Karen Skews was way ahead of the time on protein bars and protein shakes and all that kind of stuff. It's popular now, but back then it wasn't. And now kids pack in totes, or soft-sided bags. Back then they were in hard-sided bags, and Ryan had a suitcase full of Shackley products. And Bruce Gilbert was on the trip. He and I had a tent together. And in the middle of the night in Interlaken, we woke up just the most awful screaming and carrying on out there. And we go out, and here's a raccoon, 2 raccoons actually, dragging that hard-sided suitcase out of the luggage pile, out into the middle, and they're trying to rip that thing open. So we chase them off and put the put the suitcase back there, where it belonged and everything. And about half hour, 45 minutes, they're back out there dragging that suitcase back out, And so Bruce and I are trying to think what to do next. So we get in there. We know what they're after. We know they're after the Shackley. So we get into the suitcase and we pull the Shackley out of there and we put it in the camper. And later on, we woke up to the raccoons ripping the air vent off the top of the camper to go into the camper to get to the Shackley, And so it's just kind of a strange year this year where she showed up and Lord blessed us with a very special blessing, and we talked for quite a while, and she came to camp that night, But it all come back around to that story that I love to tell, but I couldn't tell this week, and I'm telling it today. But just again, thank you to every one of you that, we can't even cite every one of you. There's been so many people in the church just to volunteer their time. Guys that will come and help load bikes and they're not even going on the trip. People that will walk up and give money for get bikes, pay for kids to go. Let us use your trailer. Let us use your pickup truck. Let us use just multiple things. And when people see that out there in the parks, they are flabbergasted to know that the church supports this trip in that kind of way, And I just cannot ever say thank you enough to all of you for that and for having that vision to minister to kids. Back in the day, we did this, and I think we've accomplished it as a board back in the day. Our desire was for your kids to go with people from your community, from your church, to develop a bond that's lasting forever, that will support you as mom and dad. And I think these leaders have done that for you this week. I think they will continue to do that for you way into the future. And I just thank you for your involvement in this and appreciate it very much.
I never know what's going to happen when Dan gets the mic. Thank you, Dan. Hey, we're also thankful for you hanging in there just 2 more minutes and I'll let you out of here. We are all thankful for the weather this week. It was a blessing. Those of you that prayed for that, thank you. Not a drop of rain. Temps were a little hot one day, but for the most part, they weren't too bad. We are thankful for new bikes being found on Facebook Marketplace. Like literally a week ago, we were still grabbing bikes because we had a lot more kids sign up for rentals than usual. We're thankful to see kids living out Scripture. Offering their lives as living sacrifices. Hey, some of the things that weren't talked about was Peggy's Milk Chug Challenge, how many boxes of mac and cheese the kids can eat, Clark's Nature Talks, Jacoby trying to be Superman over the handlebars, Joe's Colored Fire, Brian's style of draft riding to go super fast, Bill the Wonder Mechanic, we mentioned that one, Mike's Bakery, the Candy Shop, which is actually the reason the 6th graders came on the entire trip, and So what I'm telling you this to go talk to some of these kids, grab them, ask them about some of the other parts of the trip that wasn't mentioned up front. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that this church does for Bike Trip and our middle schoolers. Let me pray. God, thank you for who you are and what you do through this trip. It's not just about biking. In fact, I wish we could change the name to God's Trip, not Bike Trip. And Lord, thank you for what you do through the leaders, the people who give a week up to go and work with middle schoolers. Thank you for these kids that come and parents that let them. Lord, I thank you for what you do through these trips each year. We love you, Lord. Thank you for continuing to be faithful to us. In your name we pray. Amen. Kids, give your leaders a hug or a high five and then go check out the Lost and Found table. You're dismissed.